Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Kelly. This is it's really a technical update in the video editing section in the Real Andrew Kelly channel on YouTube. And I think this is going to be very important for the peace of mind of a lot of people if their system is similar to mine, because one of the distinctions of these sessions is that really all I can say much about is what I investigate with my setup and what I read on the internet, and sometimes it actually works. So this is late enough in the game. I've been doing this for about 7 months now. Yeah, I think that's true. And some of the things that I said in the introduction to the channel may not have been seen by most of you who are watching this. So I'll repeat the goal of this as quickly as I can. The whole idea that I had here is that I want to provide something that's useful for people whom I can share my experiences with and may have something relevant in their setup for video editing that would be helpful to them. Now, there's a few things to say about that. For one, the sessions I have, you'll notice, are very long. I mean, they are long. And there's a good reason for that. For one, I want to slow things down very to the point where they're crawling. And the way I learn, the way I do things, I have to be very thorough and very methodical about it. And I'm an engineer by training, so being retired now, not having expensive equipment, I have to work with my Linux desktop. I've got a webcam that I use, which is a phone, Pixel 8a, and connected with the USB cable to my desktop, and I do most of my work on my desktop, of course. And I have seen a lot of how-to videos on YouTube that I left really frustrated at times, because it's a 3-minute video. It covers video editing. Can you really cover video editing in 3 minutes? Well, maybe a little corner of video editing. Even then, unclear fonts on the screen, really bad audio, so you can't actually understand what they're saying. Flying from place to place with their mouse, not really explaining what they're doing, like they're competing for something. And me being thorough and being slightly slower in terms of how my mind works, but it also works very efficiently now because I don't go down blind alleys. And if I do, because I find it interesting or whatever, I'd like to share that experience with people. So for me, what's very important is, if you do have a good internet connection and you have a decent size monitor, you can view the videos and you can actually see what's written on the screen, and you can actually and I do things very slowly, because this is video editing. It's a rabbit hole like you've never seen before. And I'm still convinced that I'm less than 1% into the technology, just in terms of understanding how it works. Okay. The second thing, so I go slowly and I go methodically, and I will spend as much time as I need to in order to express what I think needs to be seen and heard by the viewer in order to really understand what I'm doing. I will not rush over something. I go all the way down to where I think it's okay. That seems useful to me. Let's do that. The second thing, in order to address challenges, I think that people are going to watch these videos are people who are stuck. And sometimes it can be something that to me or some other person might seem silly, but when they're stuck, they can either keep pounding their head on the wall or against the wall, or they can give up and maybe they'll come back another day. I'm convinced I can help prevent that. So that's why you'll see a 30-minute video, a 40-minute video. I cringe when I think about somebody having to watch this for 40 minutes, unless they really need the information and it's useful and they're getting at least some of what they need to help propel them forward. That's my goal here. Now, when you're dealing with solving problems, and this is something that I picked up from the way our society works, the way that our culture works, mostly United States here. I know I have an accent, but it's all in English, trust me. So, I can't be nice. Particularly if you look at this video that we're showing today, there's no way to be nice about it. I have to state the issues that I come up with, and it sounds like I'm criticizing. Believe me, I am not. It's just that in order to solve problems, you got to put the problem on the table and you got to look at it. And sometimes it not only looks bad, it smells bad. And okay, so excuse me. So that's the main thing, is that whatever you do, I'm telling you right now, it may sound bad in places. And it's very possible that I'm making mistakes simply by being new to the game. The video game is something that takes years for people to get into, and I can see why. It's like Pandora's box or Russian dolls. You know, you open the big doll and then you get a smaller doll and a smaller doll. I don't know if you're too young to get that reference. In any case, it's also, for me, it's very interesting, and I enjoy making videos. I like them to be of quality. I want them to be usable. You can actually see. You can see the mouse, and I test this on YouTube. You can see the mouse, you can see the fonts, you can see me going from place to place. It's not like zip. There was a glitch in the video, and all of a sudden you're somewhere completely different. Not that that's never happened to me. It certainly has. And if you look at my earlier videos, I was struggling to get this thing working, and I have learned an awful lot, and I'm very grateful. The last thing I want to say in the introduction to the video, I mean, it's long enough as it is, so what do you care if it takes a few extra minutes in the introduction? So I want to tell you that I really appreciate what YouTube is doing. It's got people interacting with it all day long. Millions of people. And still, they provide me with something that if they weren't there, I wouldn't be able to do, because I've never, it's hard to see how it could work better technologically. The whole thing that they have in order to promote making videos on their systems and so on, I understand that. It doesn't bother me at all. They do, technically, for me, a good job, a great job. And they get my appreciation for that. And also people who developed Kazam, which I had been using. Recently I've started using SimpleScreenRecorder as well. I think that now that I understand video a little better, it actually makes sense for me to use SimpleScreenRecorder, because I think technologically it's better, really better than Kazam, which is something that I suspected 3-4 months ago when I first compared SimpleScreenRecorder to Kazam, but I wasn't quite there. I didn't have enough depth. Now I've got another 1/4 inch to my depth, and I think I know everything. Of course I do. So I'm very grateful to be able to do this. And if only 3-4 people ever benefit from what I do, that's wonderful. That means I had somebody who was stuck, saw something in what I did over a period of an hour, maybe. But they were able to take that and to get going again. And that for me is everything. And I think that's enough for the introduction. And the other thing is, this is a working session. So I'm sitting there in the corner of the screen with a webcam image, and most of it is either a screen where nothing much is happening because I'm talking all the time, or there's I don't remember if this video has, I don't think it has any kdenlive sessions, even though of course I put it together with kdenlive. But I'm dealing with real problems that do have solutions, and if not solutions, then some safety measures that can and should be taken. And I think that if you have on your Linux system, that there have been things that haven't been working, that you've had to work around for years perhaps, and you wish to do something which will create a safety net from the engineering point of view, you definitely might want to look at the first few minutes of the next section, which is me getting into the working session. In the working session, I just ramble, stream of consciousness. It's the way my mind works, and I just simply let it go. It doesn't always make sense, trust me. Now, please, if you have any comments or questions, put them in the comment under the video. And also, you should know that some of the paths and locations on the internet that I use, like the FFMPEG download site, are in the description below the video, so you don't have to rush to write that down and all that. And now let's hand it over to Andrew. He's got some things to say, and I think listening to him, he's a little pissed. I had put out a video says, I'm taking a break for now, and I spent a lot of time delving into video technology in a way I did not expect to, but I also found it interesting. What I found that's going on with FFmpeg, and for all I know, other utilities as well, is that there is a huge risk that will cause issues in people's Linux systems where it's not at all obvious that the reason is due to mostly an incompatibility between the shared built regular FFmpeg that everybody knows and loves or hates and the libraries that it uses and the codecs that are provided, and that over time these get so out of whack with no guardrails that I can see. I am sure that the software installation packages that exist on the market, I know there are checks, and sometimes if you do, for example, I use the apt repositories for Debian, you will see an error message with apt, and then you've got all kinds of options. When you do an apt install, you have options to fix errors. I've never been able to reliably or even successfully much fix those errors, and so my system gets left with incompatibilities that I know they exist because I saw the output from apt, but I have no idea how to deal with it. Now, I'm not offering to help you with that. I am not getting into the apt repositories. But from the graphics point of view, see what you make out of this session, and it's long. It might be worth it, though, because it might help you fix problems that you've had perhaps for a long time, that you've had to work around, and you have no clue that incompatibilities within FFmpeg that you are using are causing these problems. So, yes, it's a teaser, but let's say I had a lot of fun. All right, on to the next section. See you in a couple of seconds. Bye. Today I'll be looking at the benefits of using FFmpeg static build packages. I'm going to read some of the text I have here so it just goes faster. I tend to talk too slowly, and so working on my reading skills now. Using static build of FFmpeg, which is a later version than current Debian 12, almost always, with all matching dependencies and so on. That's the general area we're in. This has been a documented solution for various issues related to incompatible, outdated, or missing libraries when working in environments like Debian or Linux Mint, which often uses Cinnamon as a desktop environment. Now, I'm going to list here 2 or 3 of the main reasons why this really is a must. I mean, if you want to increase the chances that when you use FFmpeg you actually are getting what you think you're getting and not have to go chasing problems, this reduces the risk by quite a bit. Here goes. The primary benefit of a static FFmpeg build is that it includes all necessary external libraries like codecs within a single executable file, eliminating dependencies on the host system's potentially conflicting or older shared libraries. Those of you who have been around, those of us who have been around, know what this is discussing, how real this is. For me personally, just my opinion, this is so serious. I have personally not even looked at FFmpeg in terms of versions and codecs and libraries. Does everything match each other? Until I started chasing problems. Codec and format support. Users have solved problems where multimedia tools failed to work with specific codecs. For example, certain X264 profiles, newer GoPro formats, or AC4 audio, because the system's default FFmpeg package didn't have the necessary libraries or patches compiled in. There are quite a few more examples of why using the static build packages solves many problems, to the point where it simply did not make any sense to me to continue using the Debian 12 software repository to get FFmpeg. Actually, what I actually do is it stays exactly where it's always been, under /user/bin. But the static build versions that I download from FFmpeg official site, in my system I put it in user local bin. It could be anywhere that's on the path for executables before /user/bin. So that way, you're always going to get the correct FFmpeg. Particularly since using the static build version provides the latest stable version of FFmpeg, close to it really. There's so much development going on. It's not a singular statement, definitive statement that's possible here, which has many more bug fixes and feature development than the version supplied with Debian 12, which tends to be a year. Particularly if you're like me, I tend to always be working on a older version of the operating system. Right now, I think Debian 13 has been out for a while, but I'm not going to switch to it because I don't want to have to deal with the usual Debian nonsense of having to go configure this and go chasing to find where a configuration file has been moved to. I'm very focused on video. The downside of that is that I'm not always using the latest versions of software. But in the case of FFmpeg, it comes in silently. You can do an update. Something that you didn't even know uses FFmpeg installs a library, a shared library, which is an older version of something that FFmpeg requires for other purposes, for other users. When you're using the static shared build of any program, you're using the efficiency of having shared code that many programs use, which would be great if you were using, if this were a time-sharing type system. Here, when you want to run kdenlive to use FFmpeg, or using it with MPV or anything, you're going to throw all the users off the system, if there are any, and shut down as many programs as you can, which is something that will be discussed separately in terms of CPU power and so on. Okay, so I'm going to now run a demonstration of, rather than talk a lot, I'm going to run a demonstration of downloading the FFmpeg static package. See you in a little bit. We are now going to start the brief description of how to download the static build of the FFmpeg utility. The website is right here, as is noted above. That's where you go to, and you'll find this website We gotta go down a ways, so I'm gonna scroll down here. And these you have to highlight for Apple, Windows, or in this case Linux. And that's when this content appears to this at the 64-bit static and shared builds for Linux. Click, and let's get this to be a little bit bigger. If you notice, this is on GitHub, and it's pointing to packages that are built frequently. They are on specific individual developers' GitHub directory, and this all involves either shared or non-shared or static, which is where you see the shared text there. So for static, you need to take, obviously, static builds, you need to take the non-shared version. And the GPL versus LGPL has to do with the level of licensing, which does affect the functionality. LGPL is more strict in terms of what it can provide than GPL, which is what you want. And if you have a system architecture like mine, which is Intel, this right here is the static build of the Linux version of Linux 64, which is the same as AMD 64. That's the tar archive of the static build of FFMPEG. So I'm going to click on this, and he's downloading, and we can abandon that. So let's get out of there, and now let's see what I have under download. Yeah, that is my, let's see if we can, there we go. All right. These versions came in succession, and so the content is not exactly identical, nor should it be. As you'll see in a moment, the strict definition of the contents of the package are very well shown when you run ffmpeg-version. We'll see that in a moment. Basically, untar, in this case, if that's what we wanted to do, untar this version into a directory such as this one, and you wound up with the basic file structure of the static build of the product. And at this point, what I'd like to do is this is the what's extracted from the tar archive into, in this case I chose the downloads directory, and this is the prefix in the archive, the root directory of the package. And what you have here, so this is just a regular browser pointing to my downloads directory. These are the static executables. You do have to change permissions to make them executable after you move them to where they need to go. Man pages. Now these are man pages not for this specific package, but for FFmpeg. It's part of the build. And the most important thing at this point in time, do check the license to make sure you've got the correct version with all the options enabled that are allowed by this license that you picked. The doc directory is something that I'd encourage everybody to spend some time understanding how it all works. And here I'm going to find it any moment now. Default developer, I think there's a general, there we go, general HTML, and I'll make this a little bigger as well. And let's just scroll down. These are for you to read. It tells you way more than you want to know, trust me. But at this point in time, it's one level closer to the system. It's one level below, at least one level below what usually a video or anybody who works at the level of any application. It's a slightly more basic interface. It has a lot of information, and you should look for whatever it is that you are interested in, as well as things like how to install it and so on. Make a long story short, if we go here, so this is the extracted tar archive. The bin directory is everything and anything that you need to install, and if you look at the, well, in my distribution of the regular FF utilities, I have no idea what this is, but the utilities that come with our special version are, as you can see here, FFmpeg, FFplay, and so on. As you can tell by the size of the file, let me list that one more time, just make that human readable. FFmpeg is the executable. Oops, got the wrong one, sorry. These are big files. So these are the shared versions that have been installed by the regular Debian 12 apt repositories, and in my case, in your case, I'm sure your mileage varies. If you look at, okay, one more thing, all we have to do now is copy these three from under the downloads into user local bin. So let's first of all, let's look at the path variable. So I've got my home bin directory, user local bin, then user bin. I don't know what the heck /bin is doing there, since it's a link to user bin. Never mind that. And so if we install the three utilities statically built into user local bin, when you invoke FFmpeg or ffplay or ffprobe from the command line, and you're operating under a shell which has this particular path or something like it, it'll pick up the utilities from this directory, not from this directory. And I already have them, so let's just take a look at /user local bin, and there they are, and they are executable. I don't remember, I think I had to, they were all read write with no executable, and I had to change the permissions to include, make them executable once I copied them to user local bin. And so now let's take a look at FFmpeg dash, actually before we do that, let's so user local bin FFmpeg, which is the static build of FFmpeg. So if I want to look at what I got from the original Debian 12 install, which is still there, I have to invoke it directly. That's one of the nice things about FFmpeg. When you invoke the version command line flag, you get the basic version, what it was built with, and the configuration. This is all one line, so some of the lines end with dash dash because it continues on the line below. That's a strict definition of every expectation that this FFmpeg, which is the shared version that we're not going to use, that's what it expects. And if you compare that to what you actually have installed under user lib, you may find out that these are not necessarily what FFmpeg expects, which is what this whole ordeal is all about. It's a good ordeal. I certainly learned a lot from doing this. However, we're not using the shared version, which is what this is. So let's clear again and simply do FFmpeg dash version. And this is what we get. Let's go up here a little bit. There we go. Apologize for, I had to have this with a large text so you could actually see it. So again, version, the compiler, the configuration is all of this. and these are the libraries which are at least a couple of versions beyond the libraries that we saw on the previous on the shared version, and we're good to go. What's important for the sanity of the whole thing is user local bin is part of the root file system, but the static packages that you downloaded from Git as a result of our going to the download page on FFMPEG, they should be, as a recommendation, installed somewhere out of the root file system, so that when you do an update and an upgrade in the future, they won't get overwritten. Well, they will possibly get overwritten, because you might be dealing with a new /user local bin, but simply copying what you have from where you installed the tar archive and then put it into a directory, just copy it from there, make it executable, and you are done. And I believe that with that we are complete here, and there's just one more section to this video, which will, well, let's say at least one. And we'll finish off with some thoughts about the whole thing. My thoughts anyways, recommendations, etc. So, see you in a bit. So this concludes the technical update regarding FFmpeg. I hope it was clear. I hope it conveyed information accurately and efficiently. This is, for me, I truly believe this is a big deal. I believe that going through this exercise and learning how to use statically build a product does solve or prevent the risk of encountering problems when you're running Linux with Cinnamon. What I read, Debian and Mint are prime candidates for having these unexplained issues that this can prevent. And for me, it just makes sense from the engineering point of view. I don't think that Debian has a good track record of the various ways where you can install, and this might be a Linux thing too. There are so many packages, and everybody seems to want to use their own versions of libraries, and the way those are installed and where they are installed can prevent those libraries from being strictly for a specific product's use, but instead it gets installed in default locations that affect other apps. And to me, this is a huge deal, really. I do sometimes forget the limitations of what I know and the kind of equipment I use. And it's quite possible that what I covered here is completely irrelevant to the innocent viewer, and for that I apologize. But I hope this also helps some people resolve outstanding issues, get a more stable system, and so on. And with that said, I bid you all farewell. Thank you very much. Enjoyed making this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.